Alright, hello all you crazy people out there, my name is Dragonite, and welcome back to Harvest December. The girl's body tilted and she stilled for a moment before she fell. Her body hit the stone stairs with a loud thud, but Nono could barely hear it fall. Ha! Ha! Next. She scoured the ground as she breathed heavily. The entire area around her looked like hell. The slope was littered with bodies, every inch painted red. Next! Nobody stood. The bodies of her enemies lay atop one another, covering the stone stairs. Only Nono stood. She was victorious. She had endured and bowed to no one. Ha! Yes! Ha 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 ha! Nobody moved. Nobody except her. Ha ha ha! She laughed, and she slowly laughed at herself to the floor. Lowered herself to the floor. There, she laughed, still laughing towards the sky, she eventually slept, exhausted. This may not be the best time to sleep outside. One, it's raining, and two, there's like mad people out trying to kill you. There were no allies left to help her. Nanaki took a deep breath as she knelt on the ground. Shiki! Sixth stance, healing hand. She calmed her mind, fixed her shoulders, sent oxygen to the cells in her body, speeding her healing process. Once, twice, 3 times. Her breathing steadied. The exhaustion and accumulation of damage still affected her. But she had a lot of work to do left. She had to heal those that were hurt later. She couldn't imagine how many people needed her help below the mountain. She didn't mind. It was better to get it over and done with than to endure the storm forever. Naomi slowly opened her eyes, awakened by the rain pelting down on her face. Careless. She was awake now, but she still couldn't move. She could hear the rain. She could see the damage. What was the situation now? She noticed the patterns on her skin. That meant the god of Tagami was still alive. Not that she could do anything to help, now that she couldn't even move a finger. Her mind was in a daze. She thought of one person. Megari. Was Megari saved? No. Footsteps. She instinctively knew, even if she couldn't lift her head to see, who those were as they walked towards her. Megari! Sister. Megari looked down at her sister, defeated and facing the skies. She stared blankly at her, expressionless. What have I done wrong? Nothing. I made my own problems that led me here. And our god? Do you want to speak to him? No, keep him silent. Megari nodded. Was I not enough? You didn't notice. About belonging. Megari nodded. She had never been outspoken even as a child. Naomi had never realized her insecurities because they were never expressed. Masaki Konno. That boy had come right along to see her right through her. That boy had come along and seen right through her. I'm not hopeful I will find anything longer. I will just wait at the shrine. For what? For Yuki. What about Nanaki? Oh, I had forgotten about her. Megari looked as if she had really just remembered. It was as if Nanaki had never existed before. I'm going now. If I'm not enough, how about Nanaki? I'm talking about the future. Megari looked thoughtful for a moment, then smiled faintly. Maybe someday. Perhaps it was a promise. Or maybe it was just her wish. Naomi couldn't tell. Have a good evening, big sister. Megari crouched on the stone stairs and slithered up towards the shrine like a snake. That's a funny picture. So that's Megari's stance. Who was she now? Did she ever know her? Naomi felt the same way Shiro felt towards Megari's stance. Hideous. It's not working. Nanaki sighed and gave up. She stood up from her kneeling position. The patterns on her skin began glowing red. Who is it? 2 hands clung to the top of the stone stairs. Like a body hoisting itself up out of the water, a dark shadow emerged. On closer inspection, Nanaki could see the gleam of pale skin. Megari was crouched on the ground, staring up at her. Megari! Nanaki immediately took her stance. Megari smiled mockingly as she watched Nanaki with glittering eyes. She looked like a snake. A black snake covered in oil. Once she wrapped herself around her prey, she would give it a deadly bite. The head of a human connected to the body of a snake. A monster. Fight me, Nanaki commanded. Megari slithered towards her, taking her own position. I will. As she lifted her head, she sped forwards, beginning the battle. Yuki leapt up the staircase, skipping several steps with each jump. The fact that she was carrying me didn't slow her down. Megari, she whispered, but it did not sound hateful. Yet her eyes were blazing in fury. The bodies of defeated girls lay everywhere. The premises of Rokishiki Shrine looked like a war field. They were victorious and had the beaten. And the beaten. They were the victorious and the beaten. The ones that lay on the ground and the ones left standing. What about Yuki and I? Which side should we be on? We had no idea, but it didn't matter. We would learn soon enough. Yuki stopped suddenly. Oh, I hadn't realized. My attention was on all the bloody bodies of the girls defeated around us. My senses were going numb. Yuki walked towards the familiar figure lying on the ground. Naomi lay there motionless. Up. Is that all you have to say? Don't you understand what she means? Both Yuki and Naomi looked disappointed. Can you put me down now? It would be better if we both have our hands free. I don't mind the least. I like carrying you. Yes, but my sense of manly pride is diminished by the second. Please, Yuki-sama. Oh, alright. Finally, freedom. Weakling. I know, don't say it. And there was the stench of silence. Patterns on our body began to fade. Megari had reached Shiro. They're down. You're going? Naomi was trying to ask if Yuki was going to face Megari even if she didn't have any godly powers. Yes, I'm going. Yuki nodded. I can't forgive her after all she's done to my family and friends. But your powers, I don't care about the powers. Besides? It's my duty to stop Megari now, isn't it? Yuki looked up towards the shrine. Then she gave Naomi a final nod. We began to climb. As we made our way through the darkness, we heard Naomi's voice from afar. Harvest to us all! Festive, final. Alright, how long have I been doing this one for? About 6 minutes. I'll keep going. We ran towards the shrine through the torii. We ran up the stairs through the torii to the shrine. Alright, I'm pretty sure I've seen that word before too, but you know what? My memory isn't that great. It took you a while. You've really done it this time. Only Megari was left standing. What did you come to the others? What did you do to the others? Megari's eyes shifted just a little to the side. They were on the ground, like Shiro and Nanaki motionless. They were still breathing, but barely. Yuki clutched her rod and faced Megari. The sound of rain muffled her ears. The girls lay on the ground, their fingers twitching. Then, slowly, as if in a spell, they lifted their heads. None of them stood. Their bodies, used and forced by the god, had reached their limit. Slowly, they turned their heads, the only part of their body that they could move. They all looked up in unison. They all looked up to the top of the mountain to the Rokushiki shrine. You alive? Obviously. Well, with a little remark like that, I say you'll be fine in no time, Dr. Manaka said as she looked down at Naomi, still lying on the ground. Yoo-hoo! Nono waved. She was riding Dr. Manaka's back. Looks like we lost, Maya said with a smile that mirrored her sister's. She was carrying Ruki on her back, but Ruki was still unconscious. Nino Mia, get off. But you still owe me 10 years worth of piggyback ride. You don't expect Naomi to walk, do you? Oh, alright. Grumbling, Nono hopped off Manaka's back. Get on, we have to hurry. Objective? Naomi asked. Manaka responded with a slanted smile. You wouldn't want to miss the biggest fight of this festival, would you? Naomi smiled back in understanding. Today's biggest match. The final cat fight. Megari Ichimonji versus Yuki Towada. Exciting. Right? The rain was getting lighter, but the wind remained strong. Have you found your place? The god is silent now, so I guess he is satisfied. But you aren't. The change in Megari's expression was palpable. Twisted, mixed emotions played in her eyes as they glinted in the dark. No, you stand before me right now. You stretched your arms out, ready to grasp what I've always hoped for, but never came close to reaching. Yes, because I knew where I want to belong. You'll have someone to walk with. Now you're alone, but soon you'll be together. Yuki turns to give me a soft smile. Last year, Nanaki was just like me. She didn't have a place to belong, but my sister and the others helped her. That's fine. I'm happy for her, but I can't forgive you. Masaki taught me the word belonging. He gave me understanding, a blessing and a curse. Now you're trying to take him away. If I can have him, I will have a place to belong. I won't let you. Yuki didn't back down even when Megari was gradually shifting into something supernatural as she spoke. You need to be punished for hurting my family and friends. But you can't win, Yuki. Megari traced the patterns on her body with her fingers. The black patterns began to glow menacingly, as if they couldn't wait to destroy what stood before them. Just as Megari's patterns gained light, the patterns on Yuki and my body began to fade. Our powers came from Shiro, and now that she was defeated, she could no longer channel any power to us. In time, our patterns would fade entirely. But even so, Yuki Towada stood strong. And because she showed no fear, it angered Megari further. Yuki didn't know who she was and where she wanted to belong. Yuki knew where she was and where she wanted to belong. That was where her strength came from. It was the power of human will. She didn't care whether she won or lost the battle. Yuki was on a whole other level. She was fighting on the ground that Megari couldn't stand on even if she tried. Ever so slightly, Megari's confidence began to crack. Her body swayed briefly, and as if out of panic, she lunged forward to attack. To Megari, Yuki was a monster, something unimaginable. She wanted to destroy her as swiftly as possible. Yuki lifted her rod in an attempt to spear her in counterattack. But to Megari, who was empowered by God, her movements were so slow it looked as if she would take an eternity. Her fist skimmed the top of Yuki's nose. Then it was blocked by arms snaked with patterns of light. Yuki's rod gained the speed of lightning. "Hit!" Megari reacted slowly. She jumped back several meters, landing in a crouch position. "Just in time," I murmured as I watched the patterns of my own skin glow. "Yuki! Masaki!" It was Ao. She was standing by the side of the shrine. "Masaki, what is this?" Ao is performing the ritual now. It was a backup plan. I had not expected Shiro to last till the end. But we needed power on our side if we were to go against another god. It was Ao, born from the god of Tagami. I had estimated it would be possible for her to channel powers too. Ao's body shook, and blood trickled from the side of her mouth. She didn't have much power to begin with, so the ritual was hard on her. "Hurry, I won't last long." "This is more than enough." Yuki nodded, triumphant. Her last enemy was before her. Her god inside her. "Again, Masaki." Megari widened her eyes, staring at Ao performing the ritual in the distance. Then she glared at Yuki. "Masaki! Masaki! Masaki! Again, Masaki!" Then she finally looked at me. "I'll break you both. Stay where you are, Masaki. Don't move." "Yuki, trust me." I nodded. The two slowly closed in on one another, and as if they had a promise, they stopped at the same time, keeping a distance. I heard footsteps running towards us. It was Naomi and the others. They didn't look anxious, but exhilarated. This would mark the end of the Rokushiki Fighting Festival. Meditate. Elevate. "Megari Ichimonji. Yuki Towada. Here I come!" Megari sped through the ground like a black shadow. The tip of her nose almost touched the ground. The tip of her nose almost touched the ground. That was how low she crouched. Her fingers and toes skimmed the ground as she advanced, slithering smoothly in liquid motions. She looked like a ghost in flight. Her movements were inhuman, otherworldly. My eyes couldn't keep up with her speed. I only knew she was heading directly towards me. I readied myself for impact. Something brushed against my shoulder. Then a blur from above my head. It was Yuki coming down directly with her rod pointed towards the ground. There's like singing in the background music now. Although I don't know if it's actually saying words or just like screaming. It was Yuki coming down directly with her rod pointed towards the ground. She came with the worst possible timing for Megari. If she attacked me, she wouldn't be able to protect herself, but she was too close to attack Yuki instead. Megari twisted like a snake, avoiding Yuki's blow. Yuki's rod hit the floor, cracking the stone. Pieces of debris flew everywhere. Megari dug her fingers into the ground. Using it as a pivot point, she swiveled her body in a low kick. Ugh. Yuki quickly jumped away, her rod still thrust into the ground. Impact. The rod bent, but Yuki was unharmed. She immediately grabbed hold of the top of the rod, using it to swing herself around in a counter kick. The tips of her toes brushed against Megari's cheek. Then Yuki's expression contorted. Megari's body had changed in substance. She wrapped herself along Yuki's leg as a reptile, as if she had no bones. Her arms clung to Yuki's leg like ropes. I felt sick knowing what was coming. Gah! Just as Megari was about to break her leg off, patterns on Yuki's arms glowed stronger. She shook Megari off with a shake of the leg, barely managing to escape. The pain from Megari's twisting still stayed in her bones, and she swallowed a scream with great effort. Escaping Megari's arms, leaving herself in a position like an empty bear hug, Yuki kicked Megari's face hard enough to put distance between the both of them. It was a clean hit, but it wasn't enough. Megari bent her head sideways to the point where her ear brushed her shoulder. She also jumped back in the same direction of Yuki's kick, lessening the impact. I was standing in the direction she was coming. I almost screamed in fear. I wanted to move, I wanted to run, but stay where you are. I realized that this was my fight, our fight. I stayed still, bracing myself as the ghostly shadow advanced on me with chilling eyes. Then I lifted myself into the air. I was lifted into the air. Yuki had tossed me upward using the tip of her rod. Switching places with me, she dodged Megari instead. Megari's back was open. Yuki swung her rod she had used to toss me away. Megari bent backwards to avoid being hit. I could understand her actions up till that part. But then Megari didn't stop there. She just kept bending backwards, almost folding herself in two. As she bent herself, she threw out a kick that hit Yuki on the cheek. Hit! Yuki grabbed hold of me with one hand and took a step back. But the distance wasn't enough. It looked as if she had faltered from the impact of Megari's hit. After sensing her prey had weakened, Megari lunged forward for a killing blow. In a flash, Megari's body jerked as if it had been hit. Yuki used the movement to gain more distance. What? Yuki used the movement to gain more distance. Alright, so I got it right the first time. They stared at each other, breathing hard. This was their break. Wow. A cigarette dropped from Dr. Monaka's lips. Megari had been stopped by a blow that came from the back of her head. A blow that came from the opposite direction to where Yuki was. You used my sister's stance. Kasi... Not saying that. I'm beginning to get a hang of things, Yuki answered. You monster. From the distance, hidden movement too. Not saying that either. The first stance, the art of Ichimonji, was based off the strength of will. A martial art made from years of experience and evaluation. Making something new out of sheer willpower was what Ichimonji's first stance was all about. Naomi's movement 1. Kasi... You read that yourself, I'm not reading that. Megari's use... Oh, come on, why do you hate me? Authors... I want to yell at Miyamoto out of habit, but Miyamoto didn't have anything to do with this, I don't think. Anyway, whatever that was a stance she had formed out of years of practice and her will to change to a snake. It was a talent only Megari could do. I can't let you break this. Yuki gripped her rod, passing light through it to strengthen it. That would explain how it cracked the rock. Yuki, you're just as monstrous as she is. I couldn't breathe. I didn't feel as if I was allowed to. Standing in between these two women left me powerless. Ha! Shiki! Impact. Trails of light spun around me as the two fought, collided, and detached and collided again. All I could do was stand still, watching the colors fly around me. But... Yuki was pushed back. As soon as there was an opening, Megari slid in and hit Yuki in the chest with a powerful blow. She screamed, "Stay where you are!" I felt like screaming too, but I stayed where I was because Yuki still had the will to fight. Impact. Yuki counterattacked. As soon as she thrust forward with her spear, Kasu Jayari, the invisible fist hit Megari in her throat. Megari let out a bone-chilling howl. I almost dropped to my knees in fear. That's all I could do, tremble in fear. Damn it. Megari was slowly overpowering Yuki. She was more experienced using her powers. It was possible for Yuki to hit back occasionally, but the more they fought, the more Megari learned Yuki's moves. Yuki was fighting while she protected me too, unlike Megari that only needed to think about destroying everything before her. It was obvious who had the upper hand. I was completely unharmed, but that was the cost of Yuki getting hurt instead. She claimed she wanted to belong to me. But was I really worth it? I didn't think so myself. Then what should I do? Stay where you are. I know, but... I knew you would. Yuki smiled proudly at my decision. She welcomed me with the face of a warrior. Megari stared at me in disbelief. I was just an object for too long. But now I had a gun in my hands. Ah! Wait, is that a real one? She never thought I would pull the trigger. A string of silly popping noises from a toy gun. Oh, okay. But the bullets inside were all covered in Mayoi's runes. Each time they hit Megari, the patterns on her skin dulled. Don't get in my way! Megari, who had body bent backwards, lunged forward in a low crouch. Here I would experiment. Was it possible for me to belong to Yuki too? I was terrified, but I never stopped aiming the gun at Megari. I pulled the trigger again. This time she dodged the bullets. But then... That's a lot of flashy effects. Gah! Yuki would be waiting for her when she moved away. She lashed out with her rod, hitting Megari several times. The tables had turned. Megari's powers from the Rokishiki god were used to enhance her martial arts. But now, with Mayoi's invention, we had the power to nullify her strength. She knew she couldn't afford to have her connection to the god severed. She began to move carefully, knowing she couldn't strike out without being aware of both of our positions. That would be her downfall. Megari knew she couldn't last long in the current situation. She stepped forward, knowing she would receive damage, but ready to deal a lethal blow of her own. She moved instinctively, but it was no wise decision. I still had my gun aimed at her. I pulled the trigger till the barrel was empty. Gah! Ah! Ah. She managed to escape, but only barely. She staggered, unable to right herself. Yuki moved forward to deal the finishing blow. But then she dropped to her knees. The patterns on her body faded. Ow? Ow was lying on the ground unconscious. No! Dr. Manaka and Ruki, who had finally woken up, both dashed to Ao's side. As they did, Megari caught her breath. Ugh. Yuki used her rod as leverage to help her stand. But try as she might, she fell. My glasses are almost falling off my face because I'm like shouting. But try as she might, she fell. Physically, Megari was never Yuki's superior. She had also fought with Mashiro and Anaki, each a tiring battle. I won't forgive you. But she still pushed on, digging her fingers into the ground. The burning patterns that covered her skin were now dull and lifeless. I won't forgive you, she muttered in a cursed chant. But her body had reached its limits. She dropped to the ground, unable to move. Gradually, she smiled. Her eyelids drooped. The battle is over, Yuki thought. Megari! You? Megari's eyes snapped open in surprise, as if she couldn't believe what she saw. Megari! Yuki called her name out as she made her way to Megari's side. Don't come near me, Megari screamed. Don't come near me. You ran from me. You lied. You broke your promise. Don't touch me. I didn't. Look. Yu pulled off her shirt, lifting it to expose her thigh. Huh? Megari fell silent. I injured my leg. She was bandaged. Slowly, Megari's anger left her. I swallowed a breath. I recalled Yu stumbling the first time I met her. I recalled her clumsy fighting in town. That's why I didn't take the test. I couldn't take the test. But you... You wouldn't listen, Megari. Yuki lowered her rod. Yu's screams came crashing down on Megari. I was always with you. Always. Then I'm with you. What about you, Megari? What am I supposed to do now? Prove that you're still yourself. It was all a misunderstanding. If there was a punishment, she would accept it. How? What else but to... Ha ha! She dug her nails into the stone. Lifting her face, she crawled forward, steadying her feet with each step. Rokishiki God! He's gone. He's gone, but... She looked up at Yuki with eyes of a snake. She was laughing helplessly as if she didn't know what to do. You found your place, Yuki smiled down ruthlessly. Masaki, stand back. But... This is a woman's fight. Your full attention was now on Megari. Nothing else mattered. I needed to finish this once and for all. I have to beat the ones above me. Someone like you, Megari. Her voice trailed off. Nobody could stop them now. I stepped back. Yuki dragged the tip of her rod on the stones as she paced toward Megari. Megari tightened herself like a coil ready to spring. Both of them reached the boiling point. They closed their eyes. Shiki! Yuki leapt towards Megari, thrusting her rod forwards. Megari kicked the ground and shot forward. They collided, Yuki folding in half. Megari kept going, pushing Yuki through the air. Yuki screamed, her voice tearing through the storm. Masaki, I'm just like you. The stone under Megari's feet had crumbled from the impact of her soles. Yuki was pushed back several meters, but she took it all. It's not that I want to fight. It's not that I just want to fight. Friction went over and Megari slowed to a stop. She dropped to her knees. Her face was pressed against Yuki's stomach, but when she lifted her face, it was as if she was looking to the heavens for her savior. I need to dominate. Yuki stabbed the rod downwards. There was a silence. Megari lay unconscious under Yuki's rod. She had lost, but she had gained her place. Yuki! Masaki! Yuki! I ran forwards to catch her before she could fall. I got what I wanted to. She smiled up at me. I knew you'd catch me if I fell. At least after all this. You didn't have to go through all that just to prove it. I didn't know what to say. I want a reward. She closed her eyes and reached for my face. She leaned forward to give me a kiss. Wait. I pushed her away from me. Are you going to deny me? After all that hard work? I know the Rukishiki festival is for girls. Exactly. That's why... But this time the privilege is mine. I cradled her face in my arms and kissed her instead. I could hear someone whistling behind me, but I didn't care. Everyone was there, battered and broken. Yuki and the other woman, they were beat. They looked satisfied. The Rokishiki festival was were girls that fought to the end, after all. The storm had passed, and the clouds thinned in the sky. The moonlight shone upon us like a blessing. Epilogue. Alright, that was a long chapter. That was like 27-ish, 28-ish minutes. My name is Dragonite. I like that part of this August chapter more than I like the middle part, I have to say. I hope you all enjoyed that as well, and I will see you all later.